The case for central work distribution. Constraints. Any efficient and humane system for work distribution must have full employment as well as reasonable working conditions. So we can discount any system which does not have these. Here's a simple explanation for central work distribution. First, collect people's preferences for work, and then allocate jobs to them to maximize the net satisfaction and to meet planning goals for production. Why central work distribution rather than some interviewing-based system? Well, interviewing can be harmful to society. It can be dehumanizing because there's a fundamental disparity in power between the interviewer and interviewee. It's a pretty reasonable labor expenditure on both sides. Also, any interviewing-based system is vulnerable to nepotism, which reduces efficiency and is also unfair from an ethical perspective. The benefits of interviewing are rather more dubious. Filtering candidates may help one workplace, but with full employment, they will just end up somewhere else. The concept of an elite squad is somewhat anti-socialist and also not particularly supported by evidence. To clarify, an elite squad is the concept that if you maximally concentrate talent, it will have a greater ability than the sum of its parts. Of course, that's not necessarily supported by evidence. It also raises questions like, would they need to be paid more? They would perhaps start being outside of the regular society, which is also problematic. The idea of a good fit, which is sometimes touted as a benefit of interviewing, seems to lend itself towards homogeneous workplaces, which is generally accepted to be a negative thing. Basic competency can be more efficiently and better checked with central certification organizations. No reason to require this basic competency to be constantly rechecked at every interview. Job rotation is an optional feature of central work distribution. In capitalism, or any other interview-dependent job allocation scheme, people generally only look for new work when forced to do so. Giving the opportunity to do new things may keep people more enthusiastic and productive. Rotation is not essential to this central work distribution concept, and certainly people could be allowed to remain in their previous job if they so desire. Central work distribution also facilitates the institutionalized separation of certification and education. Universities and primary schools should be focused on educating students, not worried about certifying them. This separation would improve both institutions. More accurate and less biased certification, because university students in particular invest a great deal of time and money, so denying them certification is quite difficult regardless of their actual abilities. More importantly, the education will be better in virtually all aspects. It will be able to emphasize processes of learning rather than methodically checking requirements off a list in order to certify the individuals. In a central work distribution scheme, there will be no cultural artifacts, or at least the cultural artifacts will have no effect in connecting certification and education. Some potential downfalls. Would filling in surveys outweigh the time spent on interviewing and applying? Almost certainly not, even if the number of distinct jobs massively increases from now, so long as they are categorizable and people continue to feel vaguely similarly about entire categories. These surveys will use up much less time. What if I get assigned a job I dislike? Is perhaps the most pertinent question. Assuming one correctly interacts with the system, namely by honestly rating numerous jobs and categories of jobs, then the only way this could happen is that there are necessary jobs that are generally undesirable. In this case, however, the system does no worse than any other. Someone would need to do those jobs, whatever the system of allocation. It just makes it very obvious so the situation can be remedied and provides opportunities for rotating out of a job.